Hi, Robin with Oxy-Dry, and as you can see, I am today using my Orbitech commercial machine. I say commercial because I never use this in a home, and I'll get to that in a minute. And of course it's orbital. This is about a 11 or 12-year-old machine. Just keeps on going. It's a fantastically easy machine to operate, and it's just perfect for doing hallways, doing condo here, as you can see. We've done this condo 4 or 5 times, I think. They had been getting, it's quite an old carpet. It's, I think, at least 15 years old. They've been getting it steam cleaned, and it was, of course, not staying clean, wicking up, getting all blotchy and uneven looking, and they finally decided to give us a try, and, well, the rest is history, because we just keep coming back here because we're able to clean it. It comes out really nice and even, stays clean. They've had we were scheduled to come back here twice in the last few months, and they had to cancel because they had a couple of leaks, which we're dealing with. The water staining coming out, no problem. But anyway, I just want to point to one thing. This little device right here, spatula, see that? Sometimes when you're in a condo and you go to open a door to a stairwell, you got to hold the door open. This actually works really well. And I also have my little wedge too, which in some cases won't quite fit under the door. So that's why I have this. And sometimes I have to kind of put one on top of the other, and that actually works well sometimes. This little tip there makes our job easier, right? So anyway, nothing exciting about this carpet. Just come along for the ride. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to be talking about the big debate about Rotary versus OP. Oh, got somebody coming. But the question that I've been asked this a couple times is, why do I use why don't I use my orbital system for a house? And why am I cleaning carpets in homes with a Rotary? I have orbital machines. This is one of them. I have a 17-inch Orbitech wheels up machine. I used to have a 15-inch, which I used for a while. And I have I have this one, obviously, which is the wheels down. It's actually I think it's the first wheels down machine made, I believe. I think that Clark at Orbitech is the one that came up with this idea. I may be wrong about that, but I think he is. So this was pretty much, I think, the first wheels down orbital machine, which was a real game changer, because the wheels up version can be a bit of a handful on certain types of carpets. But and now, interestingly enough, I believe that the only manufacturer of OP machines that makes a wheels up machine is Challenger, and they make a great machine. And my wheels up Orbitech is identical in function to the Challenger. Same orbit, 1.5 horse motor, weighs almost exactly the same. It just basically looks like this machine, only with a handle that releases and floats, as opposed to this locking handle, and it doesn't have wheels that sit on the carpet, which this does, and it's a great machine. So the question is, I gotta move my wire here, there's a lady with a walker coming. Hang on. Hang on a sec. continue when she gets by me. Pardon me, he. Thought it was a lady. If it is a lady, she's got a lovely goatee. Anyway. So let's move the wire here. So back to the orbital and rotary debate here. Now I don't own anymore. I sold my Orbot, and when I bought the Orbot about 10 years ago or so, I actually thought that I was going to be switching over to the orbital. The Orbot was going to be the way to go. I was expecting that it was going to be a better performing cleaning system. I would get carpets cleaner, faster, easier. So I bought it, and I discovered that my expectations were not being met by that machine. It cleaned fine, but it didn't clean great. And I'm talking at the moment regarding residential carpeting. And I think actually one of the reasons is that on the longer pile plush carpets, that's where the rotary does better. I think on the low pile carpet, look what I'm doing right now, the orbital works fantastic. Although I could clean this with my rotary, I'm not going to because physically it's much easier to just kind of walk up and down like I'm mowing the lawn with this machine, as you can see. I'm just basically doing a nice slow stroll back and forth. You can see the carpet's cleaning up just great. And I think this is where the orbital machines, the wheels down orbital machines, really come into their own. But what I discovered is I was hoping and expecting that the orbital, I mean, after all, theoretically, the orbital should be a better cleaning machine. Oops, I unplugged myself. Let's go fix that. Just up there. There we go. There. Prop that there because the outlets in these buildings after a while get so worn that the plug won't stick in them very well and it tends to fall out. So this little trick I figured out. Well, it took me 20 years. So well, first of all, let's just talk about the Orbot for a minute. The wheels down machines, I think, aren't a good choice for homes because of they're a little heavier. That's not a big deal, but they're a little bit heavier, and they're more clumsy as far as maneuvering around tight quarters, like particularly in bedrooms. That's not really a deal breaker, I guess, for most, but that is one negative, I guess you could say. But of course, the argument is that, well, orbital is better; it cleans better, right? And on the face of it, that's true, except for something that happened a few years ago that really made a huge difference to the rotary systems. To me, it was a eureka moment, as Gru would say, a light bulb. And that was, well, I believe it was Rick Galinas, taught us about the fiber pad. Maybe some of you don't know this, but I guess it was 10 or 15 years ago. All we had to work with for scrubbing a carpet was the different cleaning pads. The cotton pads were only really coming into their own, and some were good, some were not so good. I have to move down here, actually. And of course there was the green stripe pad, which is really only safe to use on commercial carpet because it's a bit too aggressive, especially as they wear down. The loops actually get harder. Yeah. Oh, that's gonna fall out. I forgot my little jug. Oh, that one's better. Lost my train of thought. The rotary machine really benefited from the addition of the fiber pad to the equation. In fact, it was such a game changer that when cleaning with a rotary, most of the actual appearance change to the carpet will happen with the fiber pad and the whatever pad you use after to absorb, such as whether it's a two-way or a cotton or a microfiber. The real obvious change to the carpet. Oh, I gotta pull this all down here. The real obvious change to the carpet will happen as the fiber pad passes over the carpet. And the cleaning typically will happen in literally a second or two. In fact, the appearance level of the carpet, the greatest change to the carpet with using a rotary or even using an OP does happen literally within a second or two. Now, consider this. If the carpet has improved to its maximum level of appearance within a second or two of going over it, and you can't improve it anymore, then what's the big deal about a machine, our OP, which is doing 1,750 cleaning passes per minute, as opposed to a rotary, which is doing 175 normally cleaning passes per minute, but neither the rotary nor the OP shows any significant appearance change. In other words, you can't tell the difference between whether or not it was cleaned by OP or rotary. And that was sort of the question that began to form in my mind as I'm using my orbital machine. And then there's other issues in dealing with an orbital in homes. And that is that in some cases, you will see a tremendous amount of carpet fiber being pulled out of the carpet. And I remember a carpet, it was actually an area rug, a wool rug, I cleaned with my Orbitech, my 15-inch machine. And it wasn't a very big area, it was a wool rug, and I started cleaning it. Next thing I know, I've got like a tremendous amount of loose fiber balled up all over this carpet, and I was like, oh my goodness. I hope the customer doesn't come in the room. It looked like I was tearing that carpet apart, and I thought I had actually. And quickly went and grabbed my vacuum and sucked it all off, and fortunately it didn't look like any damage had been done, but sure scared the daylights out of me. And then about a year later I was back in the home, only this time with my rotary, and I cleaned it again, but this time cleaned it with the rotary, and there was virtually no yarn being pulled out of the carpet. And I know you can do that. Certain staple yarn carpets you do with a OP, you will have a tremendous amount of loose yarn that's getting pulled out of the carpet. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that yarn was loose, you know, just in the carpet, but that the OP is actually pulling it, the yarn apart a little bit as it cleans. And of course there is the concern about tip blooming, and this has been argued about back and forth, but I know that when I use my Orbot, I have tip bloomed with my Orbot, but I have never tip bloomed with my Rotary. Yeah, tip blooming bad, right? So we don't want to be doing that. And as far as getting out stains, I have discovered that the Rotary definitely will remove stains more effectively, faster, and easier than the OP in many cases. It definitely, OP does not remove the stains more effectively at all. And that's been my experience after years of using all these pieces of equipment. And I can go and buy any OP I want, anytime I want, but I'm not going to do it because I can't. Why would I do that? I don't. My experience has shown that the Rotary will be superior. Oh, here's where I use my little spatula. See, it's so close to the bottom. There you go. See? Nice. I'm a genius. Anyway, I think I'm going to put a little bit of slack down here. So, what's the upshot of all this? The OP is a great machine, no doubt about it. But it doesn't. But it's not necessarily a superior system. It's a choice, and my choice, after debating back and forth and trying both, I am convinced that the Rotary is a superior machine for residential carpets. It's much more maneuverable, particularly when you get into crampy bedrooms. And because I have a tank on my machine, which I think is a better way to go, because I don't have to carry around a pre-spray can. I don't have to go and spray the carpet and then start cleaning, which adds a step and adds to the time. And over a long day, especially if you're working by yourself, that makes a difference. And I worked for almost 21 years pretty much by myself using my Rotary, and I did use the OP, and I have to move my wire over there again. Maneuverability is an important thing to consider, and there are other things to consider as well. For one, the vibration. And in certain cases, if you're in a house, maybe you're on the second floor or up in a condo or an apartment or whatever, these OP machines can sometimes really get a resonant vibration going in the floor, to the point where you could actually have things fall off the wall or plates slide down that are propped up in a cabinet. I'll go behind there while I'm here. And I don't want this door to close because this is a situation where they have the stairwell door locked. So if it closes, I have to go outside and come back to the front door to get back in, because you didn't have an extra key for me. How's that for annoying? But anyway, we can overcome, right? So, just gonna go over there, turn it off. So I finished this side of the elevator lobby. So I'm gonna do a switch, move down the hall, come at it from the other way. So come on, let's go for a walk. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's nothing wrong with using an OP, and there's nothing wrong with using a rotary. Either machine will clean fantastic. It really, in the end, comes down to the operator and the knowledge and experience, training, I guess. We both can make carpets look great, whether we're using an OP or a rotary, and that's the point. Of course, one of the advantages of the rotary is they're typically less expensive. You can buy a rotary for, well, you can buy a used one probably for a few $100s. New ones, of course, their pricing will vary, but it'd be unusual to have to pay more than $1,000 for one. But if you're going to buy a rotary, do make sure that it's going to be able to run on a 15 amp circuit, because some of them do require 20 amp. And that's a problem, because you will trip breakers in certain houses. Now, it's very rare that I trip a breaker with my machine. My machine pulls about 10.5 amps. So it doesn't have an issue really with that. The other thing is that, back to the maneuverability, the thing about a OP is that in order to move the OP, it is the operator's arms that are going to be doing it. If you've got a wheels up OP, like the Challenger, if you've seen videos of people using them, you'll notice that, like, this is a wheels down, but of course, in order to move it, you have to push it forward, pull it back. And there's about, I believe the Challenger is around about 68 pounds. So you're going to be using your arms to move it forward and pull it back all day long. And on certain carpets in particular, there is some degree of effort required to do that. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Whereas with a rotary, once you turn it on, it is just like dancing. It's so easy to maneuver. You just lift the handle slightly, goes to the right, push it down slightly, goes to the left, step forward, step back, because you tuck the handle up against your waistline. So from that perspective, it's physically easier. And some are better balanced than others, granted. And my machine actually just had an improvement on that. I got a new tank for it and discovered that the new tank I have just put on it actually sits about 4 or 5 inches lower than the previous tank, so center of gravity is even dropped more so. So that's nice. And the other thing is that if you're using a wheels up machine like Challenger or the Orec, which is a great machine for a beginner, particularly, or whoever. Some people they prefer that, and that's fine. It doesn't have a tank on it. I mentioned that already, so you have to go ahead and pre-spray ahead, which is fine, but it is a step that does require a little bit of time. And But if you're not particularly busy and you're comfortable, then it's not a big deal. It became more critical for me, as particularly since I worked alone for about 20 years. I was always looking for ways to be more efficient with my time. Make sure I'm not going past my cord length here. Gotta do a spin. Yeah, good. I'm right at the end of my cord, see? And there's an outlet right there. So that's as far as I go. So anyway, I was always looking for efficiency, performance and efficiency, and that was one of the other reasons why I settled on the Rotary, because I can do 4 jobs a day working alone with my Rotary, and my average job was a living room, dining room, hall, 2 bedrooms, and sometimes a set of stairs, and I did consistently 4 jobs a day. So I was looking for ways to be efficient. So when I go up to a condo, I could actually go into the condo in one trip, because I would put my solution into the tank of the Rotary. I had a little bag that held my dry block and a couple of pads, fiber pad and a 2-way or a cotton or whatever I was using, and my spotter kit. Like a bag goes over my shoulder, the strap, and towed my vacuum behind me with one hand. I could go into a condo on one trip. Did that for years. Didn't have to carry a priest brake can, because all my solution was in my machine. I put a couple of gallons into my machine, and that was usually all I needed to do most of the jobs. And so it's doable with a Rotary. That's all I'm trying to get at. Or, if you insist, get an OP. But there's another reason I keep thinking of these things as I go along. I'm about to finish, and I remember, I forgot to say this. Say you go up to a condo, and you're doing condo carpeting, and the lady says, "Oh, by the way, I got a couple little area rugs here. Can you do those?" Well, the Rotary is going to be able to do them easier than a P, because particularly if it's a really thin type rug, they tend to, flap around as you're doing it. And, well, that's awkward for you, but it's also a problem if it's flapping around so much that all of a sudden it's shaking dust and crap out from underneath the rug. That doesn't look good. But the Rotary is more versatile when it comes to that sort of situation. See? How smart am I? So, I think I need, maybe not. I think I'll need to get some more solution here. I think I have more. I was waiting back at the lobby. So, I'm not saying that, whoops, dropped my bottle. I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't go either way. All I was just saying is that don't disqualify the Rotary because someone says an OP cleans better, because it doesn't. They're much, in many ways, equal, but I think that in my more than 40 years of carpet cleaning, that is my opinion, my observation, my experience, that the Rotary is overall just a simpler, easier, more effective machine. And I know that there are others that have discovered this, as they, like me, went and got orbital machines, and I've tried various ones, all of the different manufacturers, and in the end, it's just a tool. But the Rotary is, if you put it this way, I know that there are many out there that have used Rotary and OP, and at the end of the day, if they only had one machine to choose from, they'd choose the Rotary. Now I know that there's going to be those who will disagree with that, but you know, that's been my experience, my observation. But if the fiber pad hadn't been added to the arsenal of choices, then we would be having a different conversation, because I would then agree that the orbital would be better performance-wise. But with the fiber pad, that really changes everything. And while I'm at it, let's talk about tip loom. What tip loom? I've been at this over 40 years, and with using the bonnet system, set soil extraction transfer technology, for 24 years now. I've yet to see a tip loom carpet with a rotary. I just can't imagine where this is coming from, because the mills are saying tip looms, but you gotta wonder, exactly how did they do that? How did they determine that? Did they take a poor quality carpet? You should be able to clean a poor quality carpet and not have tip looming, and then they put a rotary on it and just hold it there for 5 minutes on one spot, not keeping it damp enough, maybe using an aggressive, maybe the old style loopy cotton bonnets, which are very create a lot of friction on a carpet, and I would never recommend using one of those. I tried one of those years ago, and I was like, oh boy, this isn't good. It's about the tool. It's about the choice of attachments, and to say that because you put a poor choice on the bottom of the rotary, and it causes damage, that makes the system makes it a system that causes damage, is like saying that if somebody takes a truck mount, turns up the pressure to 1,000 pounds and cleans the carpet and destroys it, that makes truck mount, you know, a terrible system because somebody did it wrong. So I've never seen a carpet tip loomed with my rotary. I know that you can do it with OP, and that's why they have gliders. Sliders? Gliders. I actually will use a slider under my rotary on certain carpets. Certain carpets I can really feel it grip. So I'll just put a slider under. Problem solved. The cut tile olefin, they're a bit of a pain to do for anybody. So we're almost done this floor, aren't we? And I've been yapping the whole time. So if you're thinking about getting into low moisture carpet cleaning, and you're thinking, well, I guess I gotta get an orbital, go get an orbital. But you don't need an orbital. You can use a rotary. Maybe you even have one. Maybe you go down to the local pawn shop, there's one sitting there for $200. As long as it's not going to be one that is going to draw too much power, no problem. And of course, there's one other thing about the orbitals and the rotary debate. There's no doubt that an orbital will require, how do I put it now? The orbitals are harder on their mechanics. No. Oh no. I did it. Oh crap. I'm locked out. Oh no. How dumb is that, eh? Oh dear. That's what I get for not paying attention. So anyway, what I was saying was, orbitals, they will go through their bearings, over time. replaced the bearing on this one 2 or 3 times, I guess. Not a big deal. I think it's like $100 a pop. Big deal. I've replaced the drive block because it wore. I actually had to have a Healy coil, one of my motor bolts, because I guess it got a little bit loose, and over time it was shaking in the bottom of the, where screws up into the motor housing there. And the motor is aluminum, and I guess you just stressed it out to the point where the threads screwed up. So I pulled the motor out and took it to a machine shop, and they Healy coiled it, and that's fine. No big deal. But the Rotary, they'll, not unusual to have those things go for 20 years or more without doing anything to them. So that's not a deal breaker at all, of course, but it's just something to bear in mind. So at the end of the day, my recommendation is to, I would recommend going with a Rotary for residential primarily, but for commercial, this is the answer for commercial. A wheels down orbital, great for commercial because they're just physically easier, and they clean fine. No issue. They're just tools. Choose the one that you prefer and you like, but don't be, I guess what I'm saying is don't be deceived into believing that the orbital is a superior cleaning machine, because it's not. It's a tool. Anyway, I'm going to have to go for a little walk, it appears. I'm trying to figure out how to get back into the building, because they didn't give me a key. I had no key, they said. How dumb is that? Anyway, hope that was informative, and hope I didn't talk your ear off too much. And I got to go now. Thank you.